Greetings, my champions of the light, and welcome to another episode of Light Be With You. We begin our journeys today in the elven town of Astronaut. Today, my friends, I would like to treat you to another dungeon adventure. In the interest of not wasting any more time, we make our ways eastward, following the road through Ashenvale Forest. And what do you know? I do wonder why this random bucket is in the middle of nowhere. And now, my friends, if you are paying attention, you have probably noticed that I am barely through level 21. And so, my friends, today our plan is to reach level 22. And having banked up rested experience, I believe today will be most lucrative indeed. I finally make it to the border of the Barrens. And the first thing I noticed is a horde base up ahead. These green-skinned orcs will surely not welcome me here. Fortunately, I do find a section of the damaged fence, and I sneak on through. And I'm certainly glad I went this way too. Those guards are skull-level elites, and I would have surely perished if I had tried to walk on through. The Barrens is not to be trifled with. This barren land is home to the terrifying orcish dogs, as well as the moo cows and the evil trolls. And I actually have to think about following these roads. If I were to walk on past that watchtower, I would surely be attacked and slain. And so, my friends, as a base of operations, I had best make my way over to the neutral goblin town of Ratchet. And it's not long before I come across this goblin town. I make my way into town and grab the flight path. While here, I come across a strange goblin named ScorpRogue. What a strange name indeed. And he simply wants me to find another strange goblin named Physics. These goblins sure have interesting names. And after depositing my belongings in the goblin bank, early the next morning, I make another attempt to find a Wailing Caverns dungeon group. However, once more it appears there are no adventurers for the Wailing Caverns, and so I leave myself listed, and I decide to do some missions for the local goblins. Meebok Mizyrex simply wants me to harvest some root samples from the herbs in the Barrens, and given that I am well versed in the art of herbalism, I happily accept this quest. And the same goblin also asks me to collect some deep moss spider eggs for a spider egg omelette surprise. If I can find a way to collect these eggs without having to slay any spiders, then I would be able to maintain the holy commandments. We must harm no creatures. We must sacrifice ourselves for others, doing everything within reason to save lives. And we must not beg for help or carries. And what do you know, this level 24 paladin, Diza Maries, happily accepts my holy aid. And while I leave it to the paladin to hopefully find more adventurers, we set out into the Barrens. And you better believe I'm harvesting any herb I come across, whether it be a humble silverleaf or a fancy mage royal. Every single herb has the chance to drop a root sample. And what do you know, I soon come across a Tauren moo, and after spotting that they had cleared the camp of Ventureco goblins, I make a mad dash to the control console and sabotage the work of the goblins. And after doing this, I begin to shut off the steam valves, disabling their monstrosity of a machine even more. However, my friends, with the venture company on high alert, I am forced into utilizing my mind soothe ability to put the venture company to rest, while I deactivate the rest of the steam valves. And having completed this little task, I am rewarded by a very humble amount of experience points, and unfortunately, my friends, the follow-on quest to collect the key from the goblin supervisor, well, let's just say that quest is out of bounds, as it would require me to do harm. I continue to harvest the root samples from the herbs of the Barrens, and finally I am able to collect all of them. And while on my way to the Stone Talon Mountains to collect the deep moss spider eggs, Diza Maries finds a level 19 warlock in the group finder. It appears that things are starting to shape up. If we can build together a raiding party for the Wailing Caverns, then I may just yet get to see another dungeon. And midway through the Stonehelen Mountains, the group leader finds a level 23 gnome mage, and it appears that all we need now is a tank. However, my friends, knowing how slow the process of finding a tank can be, I press forward further into the woodlands in search of the deep moss spiders. And what do you know, as I pass over the Windshear Crag, I spot a sack of spider eggs laying in the open. Much to my delight, it appears this quest can be completed without having to directly deal with the spiders. I also come across Ziz Physics, the strange goblin who I had been asked to find earlier. He gives me a humble amount of experience points and tasks me with slaughtering Venture Company goblins in order to find some secret blueprints. However, my friends, as you already know, this is against our holy vows, and so I venture back into the Windshear Crag, sneakily grabbing any sacks of spider eggs right under the noses of the adult spiders. And though the little ones do often give chase, if I ignore them for long enough, then they will simply leave me be. And with only a few spider eggs left to collect, the gnome mage comes across a tank for our adventure. And strangely enough, the warlock offers to leave the group so that the tank can bring along his friend. And what do you know, we have a full group, and with the rest of the spider eggs collected, I make my return journey back to Ratchet. And I take the opportunity to turn in the root samples, and I am rewarded with a generous amount of experience. And after handing over the deep moss spider eggs, I am rewarded with a large amount of experience points and 25 silvers. Most lucrative indeed. And after depositing the rest of those herbs that I had collected from the Barrens, we make our way over to the Wailing Caverns. And it is here that I come across Diza Maries. And now all we have to do is wait for the rest of the group to arrive. I take the opportunity to parkour down the side of the mountain, and I find a couple of secret quests. All I have to do is collect the deviate hides from the various deviate creatures that lay within the Wailing Caverns, and the other quest simply requires me to slay a certain number of each creature. That's free XP if you ask me. Eventually, the rest of the group arrives, and we make our way into the Wailing Caverns. And what do you know, it turns out that someone was able to share a quest with me, and after collecting a bottle of 99-year-old port from a high-level goblin elite named Mad Magalish, I'm certain that this quest will reward me with quite a bit of experience. And I am most pleased. This adventure is sure to be lucrative for a priest like me, and as we venture into the heart of the Wailing Caverns, it is clear that all I have to do is toss out a few lesser heals and maintain my renew spell on those taking damage. And a few times I actually make use of my purify spell in order to dispel the 15-second sleeping effect that the druids of the Fang place on my allies. And after Lady Anacondra goes down, I receive a whopping amount of experience points. How wonderful indeed. And soon after, the giant turtle crash is brought down, awarding me with over 2,700 experience points. And as we venture further into the Wailing Caverns, I actually discover that I am not half bad at utilizing my healing spells in a dungeon environment. But oh boy, my friends, allow me to tell you, I sure am going through a lot of melon juice in order to keep my allies alive. It turns out that healing is quite thirsty work. But after Lord Cobran falls, I am soon awarded with a whopping 3,300 experience points, and with the wide variety of hostile creatures in the Wailing Caverns, it isn't long before I am leveled to level 22. The light has truly blessed me indeed, and shortly after, I almost allow someone to perish, as I have been slept by one of those druids of the Fang. I'd better be more careful. I don't want to break a holy commandment by allowing one of my allies to perish. At one point it's pretty clear that the tank doesn't really know where to go, and can you blame him? The Wailing Caverns is a sprawling mass of caverns and tunnels, and it's clear that no one really knows where to go, and we are just going to wing it. Eventually we find our way and do battle with the giant lizard scum, and I am awarded with over 3,700 experience points. And to put this in perspective, my friends, I am gaining almost double the experience points that I would be gaining from a quest every time we slay a boss. And this is due to having almost 2 levels of rested XP banked up. It turns running dungeons every other episode into a very lucrative adventure indeed. And soon, my friends, it's not long before we have to make the terrifying waterfall jump. But it turns out it is not nearly as scary as I imagined in my mind. And soon we have taken down Lord Serpentis for another load of experience points. And then, my friends, we face our first very dangerous challenge. Verdun the Ever-Living hits slow, but he absolutely chunks the tank for over a third of their health, and I had best stay on my feet. A few unlucky crits and I may lose the warrior. Finally, my friends, we have made it to the escort quest for the Disciple of Naralath. All we have to do is protect this Tauren Mumu, and he will summon the final boss of the Wailing Caverns. And it's not long before we reach the final chamber, and I maintain the health of our allies with our holy healing spells. And finally, my friends, we do battle with Mutinous the Devourer. But we are ready and we bring down the terrifying Murloc, and I receive almost 4,500 experience points. A huge amount of leveling that has brought me to just 2 bars away from level 23. And what do you know, I even win some lucky shoulder pads, and a very nice belt too. I sure do look snazzy now with my pristine shoulder pads. I return to Ratchet and hand over the 99-year-old bottle of port for a healthy dose of experience points. I then meet with our good friend Sputtervalve, and I ask him about a glowing shard that I found on that giant Murloc, and he tells me to travel to the mountain above the Wailing Caverns. And as the dawn approaches on the horizon, we make the long journey back towards the Wailing Caverns, and after climbing the mountain, we meet with the Tauren Mumu and hand over the glowing shard. And now we are level 23. This has been a most lucrative day indeed, and all he wants me to do is travel to the elven city of Darnassus. However, my friends, I believe that is a journey for another day. I make the return back to Ratchet, and after waving goodbye to the town of Ratchet, the boat takes me all the way to the rainy Booty Bay. I dare not tarry here, I am far too low level for these quests, but I can utilize the flight path and make my way by Griffin over to Stormwind City. And after a Griffin brings me far to the north, I visit the local tailoring shop in Stormwind City, and it turns out for all my junk that I have collected, I have made about 80 silver coins. And I'll need these silver coins to purchase the next rank of my heal spell. And what do you know, another peculiar spell, Mind Vision. Now my friends, unlike Mind Soothe, I don't know how useful this ability would actually be. Let me know in the comments below if you have any ideas about how I can utilize this Mind Vision spell to my advantage. And of course, thank you my friends for watching, and please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this adventure. And of course, always remember, light be with you.